And what's the name of the insured that you're calling for today? Okay, and just to make sure I do have the correct claim pulled up, what's his date of birth?
Oh boy, I gotta grab this real quick. Let me see. His date of birth is
Okay, thank you so much. And how can I help you today?
So I just got a couple of letters from the claim specialist asking me to fill out a bunch of questions. And the one March 4th, 2022, the second bullet point, it says, how is continued treatment of 28 months still medically necessary for a sprain strain? Do you see that?
Yes.
So my big question is, who gave her the authority to change the diagnosis? He was never diagnosed by me with a sprain strain. It never reflects that in my notes. And that's not what any of my notes or imaging have suggested.
Let me take a look where she got that information.
Yeah, I'd love to see. Because
I do see intervertebral disc disorders.
Do you have my notes there? Because every single soap note that she has, that she should be reviewing, at the very top says he has a Schmorl's node, which is a fracture through the end plate. He has a spondy and a reverse cervical curve. And on every single soap note, there's an image to show with red arrows pointing to the inflammation of the bone with the fracture of the end plate. And throughout my notes, I put research, including papers that I published, like that I published in the Journal of Brain Circulation, that show that an abnormal cervical curve, which it's listed on every single note, decreases blood flow to the brain. I also put papers in there from Journal of Neurosurgery and Clinical Biomechanics showing that not only are these injuries not just self-resolving, but will get worse if left untreated. I also show that the patient has improved as he's having less radicular symptoms and signs. So the question is, I'm supposed to now spend all this time on the phone here, not seeing patients, not doing this to answer questions that this person either illegally changed the diagnosis code or ignored my notes. Both is a waste of time, and in my opinion, not super professional.
So this is based on what was reported from the actual insured, was pain in the neck.
So you think, okay, so where did he say that was a sprained strain? So you're going off. You're coming up.
I'm basing it off of what I'm seeing here. So if the information is not correct,
hold on one second.
I would suggest answering the question and saying that that's not the injuries that he has.
Wait, hold on one second. You're telling me that you went off the diagnosis, or came up with a diagnosis based on a client of yours saying they have neck pain, but you didn't look at the reports from the treating provider? And even if, do you really think that this patient said, I think I have a sprained strain? That's what you went off of to come up with how to treat your client? So you're saying that your clients come up with the...
I'm not...
Okay, so how did come up with a sprained strain? You just said it was because she interviewed the patient after the crash.
Yes, and I'm basing off of what I'm reading here. I've not had any conversations with the insured.
So what are you reading
now? What I'm reading.
So what are you reading?
What I'm reading on the claim.
What does it say on the claim? How did she come up with that?
That's what was listed as the reported injury.
From who?
From Mr.
So you're telling me that Mr. came up with a diagnosis code? And you think he said neck pain, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so was it neck pain
these are based on what's written on the claim.
Okay, so let's just back up.
This was from the act. So are these? So I do need to ask: for what you're treating him for, is these related to injuries from the accident?
100%. He never had this before. He had some with his low back, which we able to apportion, and we have the pre-imposed. His neck never had a problem. But I think the question here is, you're saying said he has neck pain, and then your adjuster came up with a diagnosis for that? How is that even possible? If I did that, it's malpractice. How can a non-healthcare provider do that?
We're not diagnosing.
Well, you did. You are, because
what was reported.
Well, you said what was reported.
I'm not diagnosing.
Right, but what you reported, what the patient reported, was neck pain. Your adjuster came up with a diagnosis of sprain strain. So you are. It doesn't say here.
We are not diagnosing.
You are diagnosing.
I do need to
It's
remind
right
you, this
here.
is a recorded call.
Good. I'm recording it too.
We didn't diagnose him.
I'm recording it too. But you are, because it clearly says, how is continued treatment at 28 months still medically necessary for a sprain strain? You just said that the patient, she came up with that because the patient said he had neck pain. So your adjuster took neck pain from a patient on the phone call and diagnosed sprain strain. That's what you just said.
No, I'm not going to argue about this. I'm telling you.
It's not an argument.
We didn't diagnose him.
So where does sprain strain come?
What
did sprain strain come from?
That's not a diagnosis. We're not medical professionals.
Diagnosis, then how come it doesn't say neck pain? That's what he told you. So you're saying she took what he told you, what you just said, and then she took neck pain and put in sprain strain, which is a diagnosis.
Okay, so if it's not the correct diagnosis, then
it's not even close.
Is you answer that on the questionnaire.
But the thing, but the thing is
what letter was sent out and what was written on it.
But you just told me they changed it. But you just told me you did.
Back and forth about that.
But you just told me that you did change it.
No, this was based on what was reported from the accident.
No, what was reported, what you just said was neck pain. What your adjuster is saying is it's a sprain strain. That's a diagnosis. Neck pain is a symptom. A sprain strain is a diagnosis. Okay? Let's just be really clear about what's being done here. In my notes, on every single page that Vanessa has, it clearly shows the diagnosis. Fracture through the end plate, which is a Schmorl's node. There's motor changes of the bone, reversal of cervical curve, and disc pathologies. I have on every soap note, it says that, or alludes to that, and has pictures of his images on every soap note. So either she ignored all of that and went off of a phone call like you just said that said neck pain, and then switched to sprain strain and ignored everything I had in my notes. So now I'm supposed to write another letter to point her to the notes that she was supposed to be reviewing in the first place and explain that her diagnosis of sprain strain off of a phone call of someone after a crash saying they have neck pain is completely inaccurate and false, and I have to now explain that? How is that fair to anybody? And yes, this is being recorded. And I appreciate you.
And I'll be updating the diagnosis because I can see that they are incorrect. I can't speak for what sent out.
Right.
I was not the one that wrote it.
So then let's just back
up.
I
will update it.
That's great, but let's just back up because just 30 seconds ago, you said you don't diagnose, and now you just said you did. So you see the inconsistency?
I'm not diagnosing. I'm going to be updating what we have reported based on what you've actually sent in for bills.
What do you have reported?
You're the one that diagnosed him.
Right, so you're not even using my...
I'm going to be updating what you have diagnosed him as the medical professional.
So what I'm saying is you've had that from day one, and now you have to update it off of the diagnosis that the adjuster came up with. Exactly. That's the problem, is you came up with your own, not you, representative, came up with their own diagnosis off of what I submitted. That's exactly what you just said. That's the problem. And now I have to go...
That's what I am doing.
Right. So you're updating the diagnosis that is not the diagnosis that I gave, that the adjuster came up with. So you're going to have to update it to what was being done since I've given it there. Okay, so I'll rewrite this. I'll attach this file, and we'll go from there. And I appreciate your time.
All right. Was there anything else that I could do to assist today?
No, I think that's all set, and I appreciate it. And thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for calling, and have a great day.
You too. Bye.